Greetings, Dapplings, and welcome back to Humankind and to the jewel in the Egyptian crown, the city of Manu. We are back in 4826 BCE. We have claimed the Egyptians and are currently, speaking about claiming, slowly expanding out our territorial control, though there are a couple of hiccups that have happened since we set out on that goal. First and foremost, we had met Shenrir over here, reasonably far away, but my plan was to try and claim more of the territory around us so that we didn't have Shen pressing up against our borders, but were rather pressing up against his, or at least that we had claimed an even amount of territory between us. But two things in particular have caused a little bit of a complication in that plan. First and foremost, Fitz. Fitz is much closer than Shen and has already started to aggressively expand in our direction. In fact, so much so that this is no longer simply an outpost, this is an attached territory to their city, which means that we can't freely move through this territory without declaring war or having an invitation in the form of an open border. Nock is an independent city. Now, we can move through Nock's territory without having a formal treaty to allow this. The independent cities exist in a kind of half step between full empires and just roaming tribes. They are something that we're going to want to pay attention to. We don't want to ignore them because they can be both a blessing and a curse if treated or mistreated in a certain way. Now, with regards to the Nock, there is an unknown empire who's already starting to curry favour with them, simply based on their ideological similarities. The current shared influence, if you like, +2 relation score to this unknown empire. I want to start improving our relations because right now, because this is a passive, or rather a peaceful city, which evolved from a peaceful tribe, they won't attack us. If they had been a hostile city, then they would be actively doing so. However, if you can reach this bracket, hostile or peaceful, they will stop attacking you and you can start buying their resources. They have none to sell us, but you can also see their map. Further on, you can start hiring their military units as mercenaries, and at the very end, you can actually absorb the city. I'm not sure that we're going to want to, though, because honestly, of all of the territories they could have claimed, this is one I'm happy for them to have. It's a very much ado about nothing territory. There's not a lot of resources to gather here. There's large tracts of land which are useful for nothing in particular. So having them there does, in an odd way, help us, because while I would have preferred it if they were over here, Shen could have a border next to the Nock, or pressing up fairly close to it, and it won't make Shen feel any particular way about us. We won't have any kind of diplomatic tensions because of our border proximity, because the Nock are not us, but they effectively achieve the same goal. They put a little bit of distance between us, so it may be a blessing in disguise. Nevertheless, I'm going to bribe them, and this will give us 2 influence per turn for a number of turns. And that should be enough, at least, to get us into the tolerant area, and we'll start to be able to interact with them a little bit more. Maybe if we do get to the point, we will actually hire their armies. Now, the next thing that we need to look at, the next steps for our empire, we want to start attaching territories. Now, an interesting thing here, I can already attach Arneb, or could, if I had enough influence. We don't just yet. It'll be about 30 influence, I believe. If we have a quick look there, yes, it will be 30 influence. But in one turn, we'll be able to do that with Wasat. Now, we're generating 17 influence per turn, and there's lots of things that will influence how much influence you're generating. Wow, I've said influence so many times. Nevertheless, we'll probably be able to attach Wasat, but around the same time that we can attach Arneb. And of the two, I feel this is the tactically better option, because it will deny a little bit of maneuverability for Fitz, but also Wasat is generating a lot more, or will be a lot more food than Arneb. So that will probably be a better one to go for all things told. But with all of that said and done, how about we pass a turn? Oh, there is actually one more thing. Now, for those of you who are aware of the community tab on YouTube, you may know that I spent a lot of the weekend streaming this game. We've got a separate game for the stream, and in fact, it's on a slower pace, so it's taken a lot longer to get through. But I have learned a few things that I am very happy to be able to bring over into the Let's Play here. One of them is the kind of interesting place that farmers occupy. Early game, they do not pay for themselves. In fact, the farmer is eating more food than the farmer is producing. Now, there is a reason why this is still a useful thing. I've seen a lot of people swearing off farmers altogether until the late game where each farmer produces more. As you get certain technologies, then specialist pops can be more productive. You need to be a bit over 8 in the early game to be turning a profit on food with a farmer. But as the population of your city grows, the requirements for each person grows very slightly as well. So it's a little bit more than 8, and it continues to scale over time. So it's not until the mid-late game that a farmer will actually generate spare food, which is very different to a lot of games in the genre. However, one reason why farmers are still useful is that military units require population. They represent a unit of population from the city. So you want cities that have a reasonably full population ready for you to expand your military should you need it. Having some of your population as farmers, whilst it doesn't counteract the food that they eat, it does blunt the amount of food that you need. So that spare unit of population right now is only costing me 2 food instead of a full 8 food. That is very important for building up and sustaining a military. That being said, though, we are going to be switching over to economic exports. I'm going to be focusing our people on industry and money for the time being, especially with the proximity of this large food-producing territory soon going to be joining the Empire. But with that, let's go ahead and end the turn there. Now then, what have we got going on? New population in Manu, fantastic. That will have increased our influence, as you can see. You gain, I believe, 2 population as standard per individual population in a city, not per territory. I'm fairly certain that the 2 people that we've got here in Arneb are not actually contributing anything to Manu's population, or rather to Manu's influence. However, Arneb is contributing the natural wonder, and I believe that's 5 influence that is being passed back to Manu. Wasat, again, already 1 population, isn't actually contributing any influence. Whereas if we look in Manu, we can see a breakdown of the influence, I believe, if we hover over it. There we go. If we hover over the tile, it's a little bit easier for us. Right down at the bottom there, you can see +6 influence from population. And Manu has currently got a population of 3, so it'll be 2 influence per population that we bring into the city. Now, we did see, well, I'm going to call Fitz an enemy, even though technically they're not, because, look, they're too close for comfort. If they were a little bit further away, they could be a friend, but they've also just attacked me, so, you know, what do they expect? I don't feel that this is an unfair title to give them at all. See, you're all friends now, but where was that friendship when you decided to try and knife me in the river, my lord? That being said, perhaps that friendship is now there because you failed to knife me in the river and you're worried about reprisals. Still, we are going to move these units, and I'm going to try and get them all the way over here into my territory so they can rest up a little bit. Now, you're currently in my territory, and it might behoove me to try and pay back the attack. That said, you've got horses here, and whilst they're not that much stronger than my scouts, they are stronger. They're certainly faster moving. Close combat unit that ignores enemy zones of control. Particularly good for running down ranged units. And able to climb fortifications. That's not going to really matter for us too much just yet, but later on, maybe. Now, we could try and engage with a fight here, but I don't feel that that's really going to work out our way. We've got 2 people there, and sure, that would allow us to have the numbers advantage, but they're in a pretty amazing spot here with that choke point, especially because I would have to be fighting while stood on a river. Rivers confer a pretty steep combat penalty. That being said, them attacking us would also confer that same combat penalty on them because they would be fighting us in the river. However, as the attackers, they only have to defend. I'm the one that needs to attack. So I don't think we're going to attack, at least not from this direction. Let's see, can we move around the side? We could, and we could even merge. That would be quite a powerful scout. Alternatively, I could go and grab this discovery. I think we're going to go for that. You're healthy enough, and you'll still be in my territory, so you will still heal by another 20 because you're supplied. I love the fact that you don't have to stop and specifically say, we're healing. Now, later on, I'm sure there may be technologies that allow for that to accelerate your regeneration in allied territories if you intentionally spend the whole turn healing. But just being in a supplied territory means that these units are gaining 20 health. So they don't need to choose to heal. They can still be useful within the territories themselves. We've also got Create Your Religion. Now that's come at an interesting time, because this curiosity just gave us 8 science and 10 research. Now that's going to be useful because we now are faced with not so much founding a religion, but deciding what the religious beliefs, what the bedrock of any future religion from our people will be based on. Polytheism or shamanism. Now polytheism will give us 5 faith per number of attached territories. Now, bear special note of the keyword there, attached, not just outposts near the city. It has to be an outpost attached to the city, so part of the city proper. Or shamanism, which will give us 1 faith per population. Now, that's an interesting one, because the influence we gain from that, we've also just gotten domestication. The influence we gain from that is going to allow us to attach one of their territories. The taming and breeding of wild animals such as pigs and buffalo brings new means of eating and working. Fantastic. We can now tap our horse resource. Okay, so I think it's an obvious one. We're going to be hooking you up. You're producing 19 food, 5 industry, no money, no science. You're producing 9 food, 10 industry, 10 money, and no science. So we'd basically be swapping a lot of food for 10 money. I think I prefer the food right now. Population is going to be especially useful for us, both in sustaining a larger population over in Manu. The population itself will produce more influence, which will allow us to buy influence costing buildings such as resources in outposts or the outposts themselves a lot sooner. But additionally, this does present us with a choice between attaching territories, which we're only going to be able to do every so often, but we are going to want to do, or population. Basically, are we banking on going wide or tall with our empire? Now, initially I was thinking we were going to go wide, but I'm starting to fear that we're going to be fairly boxed in, and so going tall is going to be the better option. Now, what I mean by wide and tall, for those of you who don't play a lot of strategy games of this nature, a wide empire is one that's quite sprawling, lots of cities, lower population, but lots of different resources being gathered, very large territory. It's a very wide territory. A tall empire has much fewer cities with much denser populations. You can think of, massive, sprawling, spire-like mega cities dotting the landscape of a planet versus Coruscant, for example, a planet-sized city, just an entire industrial urban sprawl across all available land. Those are the two sort of different approaches. If we go tall, then we want to have fewer cities but dense populations, and in which case shamanism will be the way to go, because we're going to really maximize the way we do that. And given that we're already starting to bump into the limits of our expansion opportunities, I think tall is going to be the way we go. Later on, we might find that we end up having quite a few cities, especially if we capture them. But for the time being, I think a tall empire is going to be the better option. Also, we're fairly close to the borders there, so there's actually really not that much opportunity for us to expand on our home continent anyway. So I think we are going to go with shamanism. And I kind of like the idea. These little icons here actually matter. This will be the icon of our faith, but also the type of religious building, holy site that we're going to be able to build. Something I only worked out through streaming, you can actually change these as you develop your religion, so you're not stuck with the same look of holy site the whole playthrough. You can actually have quite diverse sets of holy sites. That blew my mind a little bit. But let's go ahead and select shamanism. There we go. Right, at this point, we should be able to look over here and see faith coming in, or at the very least see where it's coming from. Is there no faith overview here? It doesn't look like we're actually getting that. Let's have a look in here. Okay, well, we're converting all of our territories, or quickly converting. Converting to animism over here. I think that's effectively the default religion prior to an empire starting to found their own. Or everyone is focused on animism until a more established religion starts to crop up. Do we see a +1 faith from population? Well, I wonder if they have to convert to shamanism first. I'm not actually sure about that one. We'll see. But it isn't obvious how much faith we're generating just yet. Either that, or Aavak is being rather oblivious, which could certainly be the case, I'm not going to lie. 0 of 1 of the territory are under Egyptian shamanism. Of the 3 population in the city, there are thus 0 followers of Egyptian shamanism. Okay, so we might find that changes over time. If we build stone rings during their lifetimes, many will make the journey here to worship and renew their faith. We'll get +20 faith, +20 stability, and stability is going to be a massive, important thing for us. We will probably build that probably after we build horses. And in fact, since I can, I'm just going to go straight ahead and add the horse ranch in there. That'll also give us a little bit of extra food. And speaking of food, we're now going to absorb the +1 in 2 turns population over here. Let's go ahead and attach you. Clonk. There we go. All right. Now, our influence has already gone up due to the increased population. Now it's going to take 4 turns for a new pop. Perhaps I should have waited a little bit, but that's fine. We can see that we're getting 6 faith from the tenants of our religion and 5 faith from the territory. So the territory itself is actually giving us faith there. That's quite interesting. I wasn't sure that we would be seeing that, but I'm quite happy for it. Have we got any faith coming in over here? No, I don't believe we do. But the 6 will be from the population of Manu. Well, actually, no, it isn't. Oh, well, that being said, 4 there, 2 here, 0 there. Okay, so that does all work out in the end. Still learning the game, so I am trying to check my workings out by coming up with what I think should be the result, and then just making sure that the numbers all tally and that is actually how things are working. And if not, then I need to address my theory and maybe even start from scratch. Right, as far as the technology goes, well, we've got a couple of options here. Writing, we've got irrigation, getting a little bit more food from rivers. The public fountain, which would add stability, another important building for us. We will probably be building that at almost every city we have, especially if we're adding a lot of territory to individual cities. Those singular cities will get very unstable due to the massive amounts of districts we're going to be building. But that being said, I think the lumberyard is where we want to go. We really want to double down on our current focus on building stars. So a lumberyard will give us a little bit more industry on forest and woodland. We have a fair bit of that. Also will give us archers, and having some range units in our armies will be a big help. All right, that being done, we've got urgent affairs require our attention. The fate of the free cities. The world, as it ever was, is divided into the rulers and the ruled. Great sprawling empires and proud independent cities. Your struggle is with other empires, but you should not forget the part these free cities can play. Let's have a look at you. We can go with mercenary armies. Why let our own blood be spilled when we can pay others to fight? Or assimilated peoples. Our empire will become stronger by opening our arms to new communities. We'll be able to do this next turn. We'll easily have enough influence next turn to pick either one. So we need to decide which one we're going with, and we may as well do that now. One of the things here is minus 50% on assimilation costs. This basically brings a free city into your control once you have enough favor with them. It can be rather expensive to do, and it also gives you a new city, which you might not always want. Whereas reducing the costs on hired armies, I mean, we might always want to have extra soldiers in our armies, and ones that we don't have to pay the population costs for are pretty nice. So with the whole focus on going tall, I think going for mercenary armies is going to be the best option here. That will also give us more food on our cities and our outposts, incidentally, though it will reduce stability a little bit, from 10 to 5, but I think that's okay. I would have liked the combat strength, if I'm perfectly honest, but I think this is going to work out better with the game style that we're tending towards right now. But with that, let's go ahead and end the turn. Oh, they've gone ahead and they've started another fight. Well, drat, I had hoped to bring you down. This is going to be a tricky one, and no mistake.
If I cannot
right.
teach you wisdom, I will teach you regret.
The Hittites have attacked one of our armies. We can demand some extra money from them. I think we probably will. But I will leave that sit for now. This is going to be increasing our war support. Now, their war support is increasing because they're below equilibrium. Are they a more... Yeah, they're a military-focused people, so they'll always tend towards having enough war support to go to war with someone. Whereas we're not quite so inclined, and so we need a reason to go to war, and over time, we're just losing war support. Our people don't want to be in war. They want to be building wonders. Nevertheless, having grievances or unanswered demands will drastically increase your war score over time, to the point that we can declare a just war versus a, well, alternatively just war. A surprise war that people won't really like us for having done. It'll send the wrong message to our potential allies. Nevertheless, we've got to fight, so let's see how this goes. There's not much we can do. I could retreat, which will reduce my war score and increase theirs. And I think we're going to do that. It's going to hurt us a little bit, and that does suck. But we're going to go for the retreat, and I'm going to immediately move this group up and attack. Now, they're being cunning here, and they're moving away. I was hoping to get into that a little bit faster, but nevertheless, you wanted to pick the fight, so here we are. Let's fight. Now, we're going to use manual battle almost all the time, unless our numbers are hopelessly, horrifically, obscenely large versus our enemies. Maybe with a couple of layers of technological advantage added in there, because the instant resolution I have found it leaves a lot to be desired. Even to the point of just, you know, having people be damaged where there was no reason for them to be damaged. Not even necessarily talking about losing whole units, but that does sometimes happen in almost certain victories. Losing units for no good reason is awful. Right then. They've gone up the hill. I am perfectly okay with that. I'm going to move all the way in, and I'm going to grab their defending area. Unless they can move us off this, we will win. Now, I am going to say I don't want to be attacking up a hill. They've got a massive, massive bonus there. So I'm just going to defend. They are currently defending automatically. I'm going to defend as well. I want them to attack me whilst I've got a defending advantage. As you can see, defending confers a bonus of 2. They have the strength advantage over us. They've got a strength of 17. But because we are surrounded by allies, for every ally that is adjacent to a unit, they'll get a +1 from friendly unit combat strength. Plus, if you're defending, you get a +2 combat strength as well. So, at least for these units, they'll be a combat strength effectively of 16, which really does make it a much less appealing option for our enemies. That being said, they're going to be able to attack downhill. So I'm going to have to end this fight sooner rather than later. I can't simply defend because they will eventually take us out. But every time they attack us, they will lose a little bit of health. So I think you are going to be beautiful distractions, and you're just going to hold this position. Again, if we can just hold this position long enough, we'll win by default. So you may... I'm not going to tell you to defend just yet. I want to see the outcome of this battle. No matter how this goes down, unless we're lucky, they are going to... Well, there's a much greater chance that we're going to lose health here. which is frustrating, to say the very least. I could simply hold, but I think it's going to be better for us to roll the dice. No matter what, though, we come out worse off. But not by much. That was actually a decent return. Very decent return. Let's hold this tile again. See how much damage they took. Did they actually do any damage? It didn't seem like they did, interestingly. Now, as you can see, fighting uphill, they straight up die, so they're not going to be doing that. But we are going to make another push, and if we're lucky, we're starting to close the gap now. They are wounded, so they're down to 16. So this is now more or less an even fight, but still, they do have a much better chance of coming out on top of this battle. Again, not by much, though. And that is nice. They're down to about 50% strength at this point. So we're going to go ahead and defend again on this tile. They have to try and dislodge us. They have to try and dislodge us. And there we go. We won because we held that tile the entire time. Now, I'm not sure if their unit completely escaped, and in which case, which direction it went. It went all the way over there. It basically got thrown out of the battle, yeeted across the map. They lost 11 combat strength and 75% of their health. We lost 11 combat strength and 66% of our health. So not as bad, all things told. But the big win there is that we won the battle. Our population's war support against the Hittites has increased by 8. And yes, I did get the message. Thank you so much to everyone who took the time to comment and let me know that how I had pronounced it incorrectly and how to pronounce it correctly. It was quite comical, but yeah, it's super useful when offering corrections like that, to actually include the corrections, not just point out that it was wrong, because I don't know how to pronounce it unless you let me know. Though I did actually end up having to double check with Google a few times, but nevertheless, thank you very much for everyone letting me know that was incorrect. Right, let's have a look. That was a fairly solid victory. Both sides came out kind of equally down, but we won the big prize, and that is the war support. So plus 8 from the recent victory, and they will lose 8 from having had a loss. So that was actually quite a nice one. Right, with that then, let us go ahead and merge armies. Now, it's not going to give us any significant advantage here, but it will give us that one extra army that will probably dissuade them from trying to have a go at us again. We'll see how that goes, but that's a fairly solid win there, I feel. Right, new turn to end, and with that, we just completed our construction. Oh, actually, we probably should get that civic set up as well. Now, they are trying to skedaddle. We cannot get to them, sadly. That does pain me somewhat, but it is what it is. Right, for now, how about we just grab this? Plus 2 food on this tile. I'm not sure if the tiles themselves have any relation to what kind of curiosity you're going to find. We found some gold there. An old hoard. Very well, I mean, money certainly is never a bad option. But now to get over there, it's going to take us 4 turns to get back to our territory, which is actually kind of a pain in the bum. But, oh well. We'll continue exploring down here, I think. As for you, though, time for us to make our way... Oh, well. We've got a fairly good chance of winning that fight. However, I'd much rather not have to, if I'm perfectly honest. Largely because those are cliffs. We can't fight down cliffs. So I'm going to have to just let you heal then, I suppose. Other options, of course, are to head on down here and grab this curiosity and then move around. I'm not sure. I'm fairly certain there's no way up onto that plateau there from this side, which is a bit of a shame because there are things over on there that I would like to grab. First, though, let's find out what this new event is. The pecking of poultry. The art of divination spreads across the empire. Priests search for messages from the gods in animal entrails, the flights of birds, the wheeling of the stars in holy decoctions, and elsewhere. Now, however, the practices have become so commonplace, so bizarre, that the whole empire is sliding towards chaotic superstition. Even the eating patterns of chickens are being interpreted by military commanders. What to do? We can embrace it, move a little bit more towards collectivism. Who are we to say how the gods should speak to us? We should be open to all signs. In which case we gain a bit of extra stability on Manu. Forbid. This would move us ever more into tradition. Divination outside of the officially sanctioned means are pure superstition and must be forbidden. We'll gain fanatical on Manu, which will increase the amount of faith that we're producing by a quarter. Or reason. This will actually move us back towards stability on all cities. Ah, there we are. That's the +2 faith from territory. I'd forgotten that we'd already started to embark down the tradition axis. We must use logic and experimentation to discern the true methods of divination. +5 for 10 turns. Well, +5 science would be quite welcomed, I'm not going to lie. We haven't got much in the way of science output just yet. We've got 4 science, so this would over double our science output. And that is quite a nice amount to be getting. Still an extra 2 faith in total wouldn't be bad either. And the more faith we have, the quicker that we're going to be converting populations to our religion, which will allow us to start selecting tenants. And by that, if you go into the tenant screen here, you can actually pick up different bonuses based on the level that you actually bring your religion to. We'll have a look at that more in depth when that time comes, but we've got a couple of turns yet before we really start to expand our population. And getting to the tenants early, much like most things in the game, it's first come, first served. 2 religions can't have the same tenants at the same level, and as a result, we really want to be the first to get to some of these, because some of the early picks can be incredibly powerful. They can snowball really aggressively. So given that, I am actually going to favour tradition, just to keep us within the tradition tree. We'll gain fanatical on Manu as well, so a little bit of extra faith certainly wouldn't go amiss. And with that, we should see, once the fireworks go away, no, it's still saying the same amount of faith, but that's fine. In terms of stability, though, we are tending towards a 99%, so stability is actually starting to become something we need to pay attention to. We have stone rings. During their lifetimes, many will make their journey here to worship and renew their faith, and I am somewhat inclined to place this down. Now, I'm not sure if holy sites will activate resources around them, as many will. For example, if we put down a regular district, that will typically allow us to access the resources of that district. But I think we're going to place this... Well, honestly, either of these would be good for a farm. Let's place it somewhere out here. Have we got any tiles that don't really produce anything for us? I don't think so. Given that, I'm going to put this holy site in here. I think it will look especially beautiful, kind of tucked into this, in amongst the mountain in that natural valley. I think that'll look really, really good. We can build the Egyptian pyramids down here. Every single territory connected can have an emblematic building built there, which is a very, very important thing to bear in mind. Now, with our civics, we've got legitimacy and independent peoples. This one doesn't really affect us too much right now, but let's go ahead and use 16 influence to enact this. Mercenary armies.
We'll see if these independent people end up as shock troops, cannon fodder, or respected allies.
Of course, respected allies. My lord. Legitimacy. Now, we're going to need 28 influence. So next turn, we can actually go for this, and we can boost a little bit further. Minus 50% create outpost, or minus 20% on attach outpost cost, or absorb city cost. Now, I really would like to be able to attach them a little bit faster, but as I was saying, I think we want to kind of lean more into tradition. Historical precedent and tradition serve as a basis for our judgments. Versus codified laws. Laws will be debated, classified, and codified for perpetuity. I think we're going to lean more into tradition as aggressively as we can. We have the Hittites have actually started to produce their religion now as well. If we have a look in here, they're probably overpowering us. They're getting 15 influence. Oh, sorry, that's not their religion, sorry. This is their culture. They're getting 15 influence from themselves out of a total 22. And they're getting 7 out of the total 22 influence that our cultural pressure is applying onto them. But it is entirely possible to convert a different empire, more or less entirely to your culture. And that opens up certain other doors for you to interact with them. Now, with that done, I think 'tis time for us to pass the turn. Population gain on Arneb. Okay. So that's now 3 in Arneb. Now, one thing to be aware of is populations on an outpost can only go up to 4. So if you've got a really good pop growth outpost, it'll constantly fluctuate once it hits 4. It'll hit 4, then it'll grow again to 5, and then they'll immediately die off. And then they'll grow again. And that can fill up your notifications so annoyingly. Manu is converted to a new religion. The people of Manu have converted to Egyptian shamanism. Well, I mean, Egyptian shamanism doesn't really roll off the tongue now, does it? No. We need a name. As it happens, Oak is the name that chaotically selected from amongst the patron supporters, and I can't resist it, okay? We shall be the Oak Brethren. Look, I just like the cross-pollination of my Let's Play series. The Oak Brethren from Going Medieval have made it into humankind. Ah, fantastic. Our church, great. Ah, there we go. We've even got Graveyard Keeper here. Marvellous. Eventually all of them will be here. We'll have to name one of the cities Dapperdell, and then we'll have Discord here, then we can have Fuzzy Ferret Farm. It's going to be beautiful. Right, 2 idle armies. Okay, we've got a lot of movement over there. Let's go ahead and grab this while we're here. Animal remains, a bunch of influence, a little bit more science, glorious. As for you, I guess we should probably swing back up. My lord. Got a lot of visibility. Ah, have knock. Yes, we've just crept over into tolerant, the tolerant bracket. The nice thing about this is we're actually now point leader as well, though I noticed that Shen is slowly starting to increase their relation. We're currently gaining +5 per turn, and that is from +3 from shared influence. Okay. So where is that? I'm not entirely certain how that one has worked out for us, but apparently shared influence. Oh, our cultural influence is starting. Right, of course. Our cultural influence may be beginning to spread here. That might be what it's referring to. Yes. There we go. That makes a lot of sense. We're seeing a bit of cultural influence from the Hittites, but we've got a much stronger push there. That's fantastic news. Absolutely fantastic news. Okay, well, we will continue to expand out, but as a result, we can now see everything they can see. That's going to be super useful. Well, given that, let's have the refugees here swing up. Another curiosity, 20 gold. I don't mind hitting these instead of further exploration. I think that that is probably going to pay out for us a little bit more in the early game. Now, if we were able to absorb this territory, which we can now do because it borders our region, we would cut off High Kaiser from moving their units out in this direction, and that is something I would like to do. I'm going to be honest with you. As for you, you can make a little bit more of a move. Apparently that is the swiftest route, so I'll happily take it. Now, down here, let's get up onto this hill and have a peek around. Okay, that's not too bad. Sadly, we should be able to attack the mammoth from here, and that will then allow us to move on. I think we're going to do it just to get through here as quickly as we can. Right, manual battle once again. Not going to trust anything to auto battling. Right, let's see. Now the mammoth doesn't defend. They don't use any tactics. We've got a much higher chance of doing enormous damage here. Same on this side, but this is now a veteran unit, so we'll get a little bit more damage in there. 50 damage already. Now we are fighting into the river. No, actually, we're not taking any damage from moving into the river. Oh, that's very good to know. I thought that attacking a unit on a river also meant that you were fighting on the river. But apparently that's not the case. That is incredibly important information to bear in mind then. Now, we are definitely going to be crossing the river here, but that's fine. We should wipe out the mammoth, and we'll hopefully earn ourselves a little bit from that. 20 gold. A little bit more than a little bit then. I approve. And on the next turn then, we'll go and grab that curiosity. Now, we've got 7 turns for Manu to finish building the holy site, but it is going to be very much worth it for us. I could go ahead and grab legitimacy. That being said, creating outposts isn't necessarily going to be the better move for us right now. I'm not sure how many more outposts we're going to be creating. Still. Yeah, it's minus 50 versus minus 20 on the attach cost. And those outposts are actually starting to cost a fair old bit. So as much as I'm not sure that I'm going to make use of either of them particularly much, I think we will be going for customary laws. I'm just not going to make that push right now because I don't feel that it is as useful for us. And plus, we're very close to being able to attach this territory, which will be grand for us. Population gain at Manu. Fantastic. And one of the agrarian stars has been earned. Not one of the stars that we're going for, interestingly. Okay. There we go, we managed to get to 12 population out of 24. Bear in mind that any unit, any military unit, counts as a population, or might count as many populations, considering some of them require more than one to create. So that will actually count to the agrarian star. And that's quite an important point to remember. Now, what I could do over here with Manu, let's have a look in there. Could I speed that along? No, but could I speed this along? Yes. Let's push that in. That gives us a little bit more income, food-wise. I'm not sure if building the Egyptian pyramid here will help us out as much. Now, there are lots of places that I might want to put this. It will remove some food, and you might be wondering, well, why am I wanting to put it there? Because I'm going to lose more food by putting it there than over here. This also has a little bit of industry. But this is going to open up so much more for further expansion. So much more. We will lose 2 food, yes, and that does suck a little bit. It's true. But that will benefit us overall. Now, that's a little bit more expensive than I can really afford right now, but we will no doubt get there. As for food down here, we've got a 4 over there. I think we're going to move down in this direction so we can connect up to that 4. I'm going to place that food district. Now, will that food district be something I can build quickly? Yes, it is. Well, in that case, we're going to. Very nice. Now we're tapping into all of these other farms as well. That actually worked out quite nicely. Let's go back to working on the stone rings, though. Though, actually, what I will quickly check is we're going to get another population in 4 turns. Not bad. Not bad, all things told. I'm actually pretty happy with that. And we're bringing in a decent amount of money. And, well, you know, it could be better with the industry. Still, this does mean next turn we're going to be able to attach. We're now producing 23 influence per turn. Very, very nice indeed. We're actually close to 2 stars. The Builder Star, we need 1 more district built. And the Merchant Star, we don't need much money at all to be able to complete that one. There we go. Got a little bit more money, which I'm not sure if that one actually counts. Finding money, I don't think getting things from curiosities allows you to get stars faster, which is an interesting choice. Let's have a double look. No, that is not helping us right now. Unless it updates a bit less frequently, but I don't believe that is the case. Nevertheless, let's grab the next one. Actually, we moved down onto a river tile, so the entire group now is kind of stuck there for a little bit, but that's fine. Right, with that, we can end our turn. Sarin is converted to a new religion. The people of Sarin converted to Oak Brethren. Fantastic. And carpentry has been researched. The art of woodworking is essential for bow making and lays the foundation for future construction. Indeed it does. Indeed it does. Ah, this is amazing. You're scouting out loads of places that I'm going to be able to go to. Very good indeed. Making use of free cities. Very, very powerful early game Very powerful. They don't necessarily lose that usefulness in the late game either, but especially in the early game, they're a pretty important part. Forced labor allows population to be consumed in order to complete constructions. You don't want to know how many people it costs to complete a wonder. Feels somewhat close to real life. So much population, I can't imagine a city would ever have that much population, but it does become a little bit crazy. Plus, industry on mountains, stony fields, and rocky fields. Have we got many of those in our immediate area? These are prairies, but that's a stone field, for example. We've got... These should be... Oh, that's a woodland. Okay, well, the woodlands won't really contribute. How about over here? We've definitely got some stone fields over there. And down here, I think, yeah, most of this is stony fields. So, I feel that might well be a good direction to go in. That may well be a good direction to go in. That being said, almost all of our territories have rivers right now. And we can also open up a harbour, which would get us a bit more money. Likewise, we can go for writing, which allows us to reduce the influence cost on civics. Anything that can reduce the influence cost on any civic is well worth taking. Also, this will open up House of Scribes. But we won't yet have a science district, a science quarter. We'll actually need to be in the classical era before we can get a research quarter, before we can actually manufacture science districts. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. 31 turns for the wheel, that's an awful lot. I'm going to be honest, that's an awful lot. But if we could get to sailing quickly, that can end up being a massive, massive benefit for our budding civilization here. We could also grab some wars. We're probably going to be looking at a war in the near future. So as much as I'm not necessarily interested in this, getting those warriors out would probably give us a distinct tactical advantage. And also having stronger defenses against enemies being able to breach our walls. Defensive enclosure made from stakes, palisades, and other early settlement protection from invaders. This would make it harder for neutral units to attack our civilization as well. It would increase the amount of time I believe it would take them to sack an area, and that would also lead to copper, which is going to be an important one for us ultimately, because that gives us the spearmen and also the watchtower, which we would be able to build around. Standing tall over the city, watchtowers not only increase vision, but also allow nearby soldiers to be better coordinated. So we've got quite a few options here, but first and foremost, we're going to be going for the stoneworks, as I think that's going to offer us the best initial return for our builder stars, but then we're going to go through city defense all the way up to bronze working, I'm thinking. I feel that it is time to make those sorts of moves. Right, as for you, how about you head back to our area? Now, this is interesting. We can't walk over the city. Our troops can't move through a city district, not even a free city district. That would be an act of war. Right, let's go ahead and grab this. 8 research, 10 influence, and a district. And a sanctuary. We could sack the sanctuary for 22 gold. And money is always very useful. It'll only take us 1 turn to do, so I think we shall. Right, with that done, time to connect up our next district. And attach. Actually, before we do, let me just double check. We've actually got no population here. This is generally going to be a drain on our resources, but it will give us access to a new resource in the form of porcelain, which will be a big, big help, as that will further increase our stability. So let's go ahead and attach that one. Also, obviously, cutting off fits from being able to expand further in this direction is always going to be a useful move. We'll try and curb how easily they can move around the map. We've got 3 turns on the stone circle. Let's take a peek. We can't rush that one with money, sadly. So it'll take a little bit, but once the Egyptian pyramids are built, I would very much like that to be built. That should only take a few turns, in fact. How many? 2 turns, and it will help our stability. And right now our stability is suffering. There is one other way that we can help stability, and this is where money starts to play its part. Oh, don't be like that, Shen. Right, we can trade luxury resources. Do you have any that I don't have access to? Yes, you do. You have a few. If I were to purchase these, this one would give us extra industry, which is amazing, but plus 4 stability as well. Obsidian, plus 2% of extra industry and plus 4 stability. And this one will give us science. I absolutely want the science from the ambergris. One thing to be aware of here, and this was something that I only learned right at the end of the multiple streams I had over the weekend of this game. These resources stack. Having 2 sources of ambergris will give you twice as much of a benefit. Again, very different from what I've kind of been trained to expect from games in a similar genre, where just having one instance of the resource is all you really needed and you could trade the others away. In this, the more you have, the better. So I'm going to go for ambergris if I can afford it. How much do you want? 53. We're going to have to go by naval transport. Okay, well, I mean, that's the cheaper route. Use land and sea routes, but prefer transport by sea wherever possible. This is cheaper, but harbours and trade ports are vulnerable to ransacking. I'm okay with that. Let's go for that one.
So many interesting questions arise. Barter or currency? Exchange rates? Tolls and taxes to fill your coffers?
I mean, those are all very important questions, true. We will also pick up the marble if I can afford it. For 72, well, we can't. It's just that I already had that open, so it was showing me the availability prior to me having spent a bunch of money. But this is going to help a lot. That will slow down the tending of our stability. We want pretty much access to every single luxury resource that we can barter for, and that will also, again, further solidify our relations with the other nations nearby. If we have a look over here, we're following different religions. We're trading resources with them. They aired grievances against us. They depend on access to our resources, but we depend on access to theirs. Now that makes their strength they feel a little bit more emboldened. Should things come to blows, knowledge that we would suffer as much as they would suffer will make them feel more confident in negotiations, and I quite like that. But I think maybe a non-aggression pact to sweeten the deal a little bit. There's no reason for us to be at war, Shen. Let's see.
So, tell me, shall we become closer?
Make me a better offer and see what happens.
Well, for 20 gold, I'm willing to accept that. It's not 20 per turn, it's just a once-off.
This is what you wish to do? You set things in motion.
Oh, don't be such a sourpuss, me. Let's go ahead and accept.
My people will profit from this proposal. We accept.
Pleasing news.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, now we've got... it's improving rapidly at this point. We've signed a new treaty. We're trading resources with them. Our trust is getting good. And that's definitely something we want. We want to lift up our trust to the point that maybe we can even form an alliance. I definitely don't want to have 2 enemies on the same continent as me. 1 is more than enough. But I think with that, we're going to have to wrap up today's episode. Expect the episodes of this series to be long ones, because it is such a fun game. There is definitely in the beginning there's going to be an awful lot to discuss, because laying the foundations properly in the beginning are going to allow us to build the castle much more rapidly once the game gets into full swing. But I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, and as ever, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, do let me know down in the comments or with a like on the video. But until next time, and as always, do take care, everyone, and I'll leave you with a lovely shot of Manu. Ah, fireworks. How beautiful.